Hey, and welcome to another episode of the South African Fantasy Football Podcast. How are you keeping, Mohammed Wasim?
Not too bad, man. A bit of a rough week. But we expected it with the fact that so many people went assistant manager and we were just hoping for the best. But a bit of a solid red arrow. But it's one of those that hopefully we'll be able to turn it around once we activate our AMs later in the season. But aside from that, all good, man.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I literally dropped double in rank, but it was my worst game week ever, I'd say, like for this
Mm.
season. Your side, you got above average, and yet still quite a big rank killer.
I checked my safety score at my rank was like 94 points. So I was like 20 points behind my
Okay.
safety score to at least have just kept my spot, which is quite ridiculous. But it was okay. I made some poor choices. Gakpo has been in a very abusive relationship since he's joined my team, to be honest. So I'm going to try and get him out as soon as possible. That's my plan.
So let's start with the meme of the week, FPL Martin, who seems to be one of the best Gakpo owners right now. It's a double game week, but the D is silent. A Django reference.
Yeah, it wasn't. It didn't even end up being a single game week at all
Yeah, at
because he
all.
didn't even play, which is
Mm.
even more unfortunate. But I mean, to be honest, I got Mbeumo that came off the bench for three. I suspect that if Gakpo had to play against Villa, Liverpool just looked so bad against them. They might have probably even gotten a single digit, sorry, a 1 or 2 pointer, which would have actually
I
hurt
actually
even more.
think
So
Liverpool missed him in the sense that his
yeah,
finishing is much better. Jota really had a poor performance finishing wise,
yeah.
and Nunes normal performance finishing wise.
Yeah, very standard performance. He had that one game where he came off the bench and scored two, but I mean that was only out of character performance that he so far had this season, which
Yeah,
is surprising.
but it was a very different look Liverpool team in the sense that he didn't
Mm,
play like a out and out left winger.
yeah.
In that sense, I felt Curtis Jones and Southside played well, but they really gave us a little bit of the same things, and
Mm.
they did get some good final passes, I'd say, but there was no one really there to finish it off. Let's still talk about Gakpo. I'm actually going to put up my team. So I got 62 points and really below average. Um, but now where to go from here? So I've already made my transfer. I took off India and I put in Cunha.
Yeah,
I just like Cunha. Wolves fixtures are looking great. And I've
yeah.
decided to keep Gakpo just in the sense that Liverpool did have this blip. I think Liverpool would benefit from Gakpo. I think as soon as he's fit, he's coming back into the team.
Mm.
And right now, I have other fires
To put out,
to
yeah.
put out.
I,
So
I also I also think Gakpo's the type of player he'll score in the big games, right? He'll be the one that turns up with the goal in the big game because he'll get off a defender and then just pop one into the back of the net. So
yeah,
he's definitely got it in him. I think it's worth it. I'm not looking at keeping him personally. But so you only made one transfer so far. That was
I only
Jed
have one
Cunha.
transfer.
Okay,
Yeah. So
okay.
so the way I've set up my team, I've got my Forest defender Milenkovic on the bench. So if Gakpo doesn't
Yes.
play, he comes on. I'm going like I'm banking heavy on Newcastle, but eventually I'm gonna have to take out like I'm looking to get rid of Gordon and Konate before game week 29, and possibly Gakpo as well. I'll have to see how that goes because blank
Yeah.
game week 29 is coming up soon, and I just want to
Your
make sure I have the
biggest
full team.
your biggest worry is that so if you're gonna get rid of Gordon, Gakpo, and
Konate,
Konate,
so
you're still
27,
gonna have
28.
Salah, Isak, Munoz, who you're gonna bench in game week 29
Yeah,
because those three don't play.
that's the
Okay.
plan. We can go to your team. Much better than my team.
On mine, I think the thing that frustrated me the most was Trent going off in the first game at 60 minutes and Liverpool conceded straight after, which was a
Yeah,
pain because I also had Allison, which hurt even more. What hurts even more is that Flecken with one game outscored Allison, who played two games, which I at least expected a clean sheet in one of them. So that was very disappointing. Gakpo not playing was frustrating. So I mean, I spent so much time thinking who to bench out of my front eight, and it ended up being pointless. And like I was actually stressed before the deadline. Oh, who I'm gonna bench. And I put Mbeumo on the bench, and then Gakpo didn't play, so it actually rendered that entire thing so pointless. So I was actually worried about Gakpo not playing. I wanted to go Watkins, but my biggest worry about that was then having Watkins and Rodgers was, I think, a bit of overkill for me, especially to try and get players out for
Mm.
game week 29 because I don't want a free hit there. So I just left it and I said, okay, let me just roll my transfer instead. I did consider Cunha and Wood also. Both got returns, and both would have been decent long-term picks for, I mean, for most of the season, or at least for the next few weeks until the double game weeks do come up. But I said it is what it is. I'm likely going to do Gakpo to Cunha tonight though, so I'm getting definitely getting. Mateta still got good fixtures. Isak's got good fixtures, and Gakpo is one of the guys blanking in 29 anyway. So
Yeah.
I've probably got a dilemma now building up to game week 29 with Mateta at the moment. So he's my one that, like, I want to get rid of him temporarily, but not for long because I do want him back in game week 32. So I'm I've been thinking about free hit 29 a little bit, but I think free hit's probably going to be much better for game week 34. And like with my chip strategy, that seems to be the best option for now. So I'll probably look to get in the next few weeks sort of Rodgers. Allison's just going to sit on the bench. Salah's fine. Munoz potentially could sit on the bench for me as well, and Isak will probably sit on the bench. So I've got Salah, Isak, Munoz on the bench, and then Rodgers and Mateta to hopefully go in the
Okay.
build up to 29. Or I might just do it the other way around and get rid of Munoz instead and keep Mateta. I'll see how that goes. But I think Chris Wood's got a great fixture in game week 29, so I'm hoping to bring him in for that Ipswich game, and then if I need to for a couple of weeks, and then possibly Mateta back in game week 32. So
So
that's kind of what I'm looking at.
we'll take a look at Game Week 29 and our players in a little bit. Um, let's talk about Razeen because he played the system manager chip out
What
of
a dodgy
nowhere.
move. Because he told all of us locked in, there was no Emery selected in the locked in, and it was a last minute change, I assume, to bring Emery in. And I mean, he belted it this week. He got like 90 something points,
98
right?
points, yeah.
Yeah, which was
So
a great week for him.
looking at it, like he got a big return from Diaz as well.
Yeah.
So that's quite a big differential that not much people had.
Mm,
So and he had Alexander Arnold who
yeah.
scored a goal and got the clean sheet in the first game. So he had the three premium Liverpool players
Yeah.
versus most people who just had the one that everybody had.
Which
So
was Salah. I think Trent was very popular, but I guess all the Oaks with decent budget have been going Trent. But
yeah.
I mean, he's got some alarming red on his bench at the moment, so he probably needs to make some transfers to clean up that bench at the
Yeah,
moment, and
so
potentially might also need a manager
that's
transfer
the
this
thing.
week because
So your
what does he
advice to Razeen
prioritize?
now, if you say he has two transfers, I don't know how many transfers he has, but say he has two transfers, what would you be looking to do? Yeah,
If he's got one transfer, I'd probably make it. He doesn't probably even have to make a change on his bench, to be honest.
yeah, he
Probably
can
roll
play.
maybe one
Yeah,
more week with the guys on the bench being injured. Maybe, I mean, if you just really want the option just of better fixtures, maybe you make one transfer on your bench. But like, I feel like he does need another striker. So if he could get Cunha with Richarlison, for example, I think that'll be a solid move. Because I think Cunha is going to be a decent one. But I think managers, there's some decent options this week. I was actually reading some, and like a lot of people are chasing table bonus.
yeah,
But I think Arteta's got a good fixture against West Ham. So if you want to go secure and you've got the money, I think Arteta's the one to go for. And then a lot of people have been considering Glasner because they've got table bonus
at
against Aston Villa,
Fulham.
and Aston Villa
Or is
don't
it
look too great at the
Villa?
moment as well. Yeah, I
Are
think
they
it's
playing
against.
Villa? I
No,
thought they're
no,
playing
sorry, I
Fulham.
think you're Fulham. I think
Yeah.
you're right. I think it is
So
Fulham.
I was looking at
Yeah, yeah,
that, but
Palace, Fulham. Yes,
Fulham
you're right.
are on form.
Difficult team. Yeah, difficult team to play against. So I think it's the more likely it's a more tighter game. So, but I mean, even if you get a draw in that game, you still get decent points from an assistant manager perspective, right? So I think that might be a decent option for some people. Wolves, Bournemouth, maybe Wolves can cause an upset if you want to go for the Wolves manager. That might be a little bit interesting if you really want to punt. But I think if you want safety as well, I wouldn't bet against going for Hurzeler against Southampton. I think Brighton, that result could get very ugly against Southampton if Brighton do turn up. So I think those are decent options for system. And you can either go safe with Arteta or Hurzeler, or I think you can go for Glasner potentially as the chasing the table bonus. I think Van Nistelrooy also against Brentford's maybe not the worst option, but I
Yeah.
mean Leicester just looks so bad to be honest that it might not be worth the risk.
So keeping that you mentioned Brighton, I just want to transition to the team of the week, and I wanted to give it just a talk a little bit about. I think Minte is in this team, but
Yeah, I love that guy, man. He just
also
doesn't play enough.
Mitoma was also quite. Mitoma is in the scouts team of the week for Game
Yeah.
Week 26. I just wanted to say something about them. Like even though this fixture looks good, beyond that, I don't know if Brighton have such great long-term picks. Even though they do play all the
And
time, 29
yeah.
they play City, and 29 is kind of when you need all your players to play. So I'm
Yeah.
tentative to look at Brighton assets from that point of
And
view.
Mitoma's been a popular pick from, I think, transfers in. I was checking it out the other day. Who's the
Yeah,
popular transfers in this week? And Mitoma's been up then. I couldn't understand why, but I guess people chasing points against Southampton. Maybe it's a short-term move,
yeah.
which I'm not usually fond of
I,
personally.
I,
But
I wouldn't
yeah, it
go.
could be an interesting one.
I wouldn't rush into it if anybody's looking
Yeah,
unless you have options. The other thing is that with Game Week 29, like it doesn't really maximize your Game Week 29 potential. And
100.
I think I didn't catch the Chelsea. It was Chelsea Brighton game, but apparently a lot of people are bringing in Mitoma because he just looked so good that game.
Yeah. And a lot of
Um,
people are transferring Palmer out, surprisingly. So, I mean,
yeah.
that's
So
been a key topic of
we're going to
chaos.
talk about that soon.
Hmm.
But the other player I just want to mention, Marmoush. A lot of people also bringing him in, but the fixtures are
Yes,
not
I have seen
the
that.
best. I would like
No, they're not there. They're not there.
based on it. Like I think he can get points against Liverpool. It's just not ideal to bring in a player at this point. I
I
am
think people are going in the hope that City are now firing. I mean,
yeah
it was weird that City in the Champions League last night benched De Bruyne and Haaland. So I think Haaland was carrying a
get
knock from
knocked.
the
Yeah,
weekend. So I think that's why he was. And I think once it went down to 3-0, Pep said it's not worth risking the injury, especially if he's chasing FA Cup and pretty much just the FA Cup at this point in time. So he probably rested Haaland then. De Bruyne was surprised didn't come on in the game unless he's probably carrying something as well. That's why he was probably only there in case the game was close and they really needed something.
I read
But
some of that.
City can be firing.
I read some of the De Bruyne. They're saying that he's playing permanently in pain. Like
Ah,
it's a
okay.
bit of a thing where like it's not really managing his fitness. I think he's got a some not something chronic, but
Long-standing
yeah,
issue.
like it's
Okay.
not resolving. It's not
Okay.
injury. It's just playing permanently through pain when he does play.
Okay.
So it's a
Wow.
bit sad, but yeah. I remember even Gerrard reading something about Gerrard like that at one point. So I don't think De Bruyne is going to be long like a FPL pick, but I don't think he's going to be long term in City's plans as well.
No, I think he's probably going to leave at the end of the season. I don't
Yeah.
expect him to be the next season personally.
Let's quickly look at a bit of the results. We spoke about the Chelsea Brighton game, which was it was a big
Hmm.
surprise. Friday night, 3-0, not something you'd expect.
Yeah. But especially after the FA Cup, we thought Chelsea would come back with a little bit more fire, but they seem to have been so lackluster. But I mean, we kind of expected them to drop off a little bit without Jackson in the team and Gungu coming in. And I mean, I think the team in general just doesn't look great. So I think, to be honest, Chelsea assets at the moment are for me to stay away unless they can start finding some form because they've really got nothing interesting to play for at the moment.
Yeah. Um, the other one, Newcastle, we were quite wrong about them. 4-0. I didn't catch
That
the
was a
game as
hammering, huh?
well.
Yeah, I watched most of that thing. That was an absolute hammering. Like I've like it, and it's not like the scoreline. The scoreline showed exactly how that game was. City dominated really strong in that one. Yeah, Arsenal left it very late against Leicester. Seemed
Mm,
to be, I mean, like as we expected, probably very defensive for a lot of the game, and then once they can create a couple of chances here and there, they did get a couple of goals through Marino, which was solid for them. But I'm honestly thinking now out there forward players, especially how they were early in the season when they lacked attacking threat, they played very defensively. So I think look, considering a double Arsenal again is something that's on my mind at the moment. I don't think they're going to have many doubles anyway, which puts me off slightly. But I'm hoping that um that if I do double up because like Allison is just a bit of a pain in my team at the moment, just because they I think Liverpool aren't just keeping enough clean sheets. So
yeah.
Raya is a good option for me at the moment. So a double between Ryan and Gabriel is quite tempting at the moment for me as well.
So I'm also looking. I think they're the most secure defense. And I'm
Mm,
also, when I mentioned I'm going to looking to get rid of Konate, like I'm looking at
yeah.
Arsenal defenders if I can free up some funds and get Gabriel in. If not, then Timber. What was the Spurs United? I missed that game as well. But what were your thoughts on that game?
The game was, I don't know, I don't want to say it was very one-sided. I mean, United had a lot of decent chances, but I mean, their forward line is just not up to scratch. Got Ahmad in there. Um, they they create a lot of chances, but they aren't as deadly in the finishing. Where Ahmad was still getting the goals when the chances fell to him. For Fernandes playing in midfield, because they've also got a lot of injuries now. United they couldn't field the full bench
Mm.
for this. So they had kids on the bench, and they only had Lindelof, which is the only experienced player in that team. So they're also, I think, struggling with injuries at the moment, and they had to do a bit of a makeshift midfield with Fernandes in midfield, and I mean, with him not close to the goal, I think his effectiveness has decreased. But I think United's effectiveness as a whole has decreased as well. Garnacho did look good. He looked great without a finishing touch, to be honest. And Xerxes and Hoyland are clowns at the moment because they just don't do enough, unfortunately.
Okay,
But
so I,
Spurs are looking better. Defensively, still a little bit ragged, but I think now with some of the players coming back fit, and I think with a little bit more confidence in the team, and now it's been 2 weeks with only one game a week, which has definitely made a big difference to the squad. So I think they'll be decent if they can get a good run of fixtures going.
yeah, so it's one to look at. Particularly, I'm curious to see what Spurs do next against Ipswich. Knowing Spurs, their
Yeah,
trend.
you'll go two wins and then go and lose to Ipswich. Nah, but
Yeah.
I think Ipswich don't look great. I think Spurs with a week's rest and more players coming back fit, I expect Spurs to build some consistency and actually get the win against Ipswich.
Okay, let's quickly look at our players that we're looking at. So I'll start off with. Let me start off with mines. So I'll just transition into my players to watch. So firstly, Cole Palmer. What do we do with him?
Hmm. He's got Southampton and Leicester in the next three. He's a
Yeah.
definite hold. It's a
Uh,
definite hold. Plus, remember, he's also on penalties, right? Which gives you an added comfort that at some point in time, Chelsea are going to get a penalty. He's going to take it, and he's quite deadly from the penalty spot anyway. So I think he's worth it. Villa aren't great. Um, Chelsea need a bit of a kick up the butt. So I think at some point in time, they're going to put a performance up, and they've got decent fixtures coming up over the next three. I think they can win all three if they turn up on the day. Who really knows which team's going to turn up because they've just been so poor. But if they can find a method to get some results, I think it'll make a big difference. But I mean, they don't have a striker. They attacking player Sancho's really bad. Neto hasn't been looking great either. So it's pretty much just Palmer alone. I mean, he plays games and he's still high up in the BPS, even though he does nothing at times also. So you can see he's affecting the game in a positive manner. It's just the players around him aren't doing good enough. So we'll see. I think for the next three is a hold, but I think it gets to a point in time if you do want to wild card and the fixtures don't look great any longer for Chelsea. I think doing a Palmer to Haaland, for example, for the last say 10 games, or 8 to 10 games of the season, I think is a definite option that I'm considering.
yeah. Right now, if you have him, hold him. Those fixtures look too good.
Mm.
He's on pens, so there's no rush for me to take him off. And the more people I see transfer him out, the better. The more
Yeah,
happy I am to keep him.
hundreds.
The other two I have, so I have Dango Otara, and I don't have any Bournemouth midfielders. So I'm looking to also get rid of Rogers for him,
Yeah,
and maybe I can also look at taking out Gordon for him if I want to. It depends if I want to keep Rogers more longer term and free up the
yeah,
funds to upgrade Konate. So I mean, Bournemouth, I think based on their fixture run, you need one of their midfielders at this point.
yes. I think Clivert is the best one still, in my opinion. Just
Yeah,
because the fact he's on
yeah,
penalties, I think that gives him the added advantage. And I think he's on a lot of the set pieces when Tavernier is not on the field. So I think he's probably your best option. I think Utara's second. I think Semenyo's the only reason I have Semenyo is because I don't think I've sold Semenyo in months. So I'm just rolling with him for now. But the only worry with Utara at the moment is that
Evan
what's his name?
Nielsen.
Evan Nielsen's back on the grass.
Yeah,
So he's training again, but I don't think he's training with the first team yet. But I don't think it'll actually affect too much. It might just make him more minutes risk because I expect Evan Nielsen to come in instead of for Brooks instead. Semenyo will move over to the right. Utara will play off the left, and then Tab,
Yeah,
what's his name? Clive playing in
but
the number
it,
10
it, it
role. So
lowers his appeal. If
yes,
Otara goes back to the left, then I'd rather have Semenyo over him and still Clive it
but
rather.
I think Utara was very effective even when he was playing off the left. His problem was he just never got enough minutes. But now I think he's shown that he's got that goal scoring edge to him. So I think he'll play much more than people expect him to
Yeah, I'm only looking at him now. Just Clive it I can't afford, and
afford.
Semenyo
Yeah.
I'd rather look at the other two
No,
as well.
he's the best price point at the moment. Utara, I think is the right one to go for
My
if
third
you
player,
don't have funds.
we mentioned him already, Mikel Merino. I do think it's an interesting choice. I think he's one to watch. I would not bring him in anytime soon, even though West Ham is a great fixture. He's just one to watch.
It's very punty for 6 million. It can be a very punty move for 6 million if you really want to take a chance. I mean, the
But
fixtures aren't fantastic, but I mean, if he's going to play as the nine, the problem is, I don't think he started the last game. He came off the
no,
bench,
came
right?
off the bench.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so you don't even know if he's really going to, even after the two goals.
that's why I'd watch. I'd wait and watch
Mm.
because you have the
But
other Arsenal midfielder who's cheaper on your list.
yes, hundreds, which I
So
think is the best option from them all. Because if you really want to punt, this is your guy. So yeah, so Nwaneri is in, like, I actually considered him for Rodgers instead because it frees up so much funds for me to then spend elsewhere in my team. And the thing is, at least with him, you can be comfortable that when Saka is back and he might not be playing as much, you can just keep him on the bench, to be honest, because it's not really going to make a difference to your team. So I'm considering him, but I'm probably not going to do that move anytime soon. I just because I know so much is going to happen between now and game week 29. I'm going to try and keep my transfers to as late as possible, and then just see how I can work around some transfers there closer to the time. But Moneri is definitely someone that, if you want to go someone cheap, someone that's going to be really guaranteed minutes, someone's on set pieces and corners and the likes. I think this guy is probably one of your decent options. And he's affecting games, right? I mean, he's getting into good positions. He can get goals. I think he's one of the highest scoring teenagers in the Premier League this season, across all competitions. So I think he's definitely one to consider.
yeah, he's highly rated amongst Arsenal fans.
Mm.
That they talk about him with high regards. Let's talk me through your transfer plans. I have Chris Wood and Cunha as two players you also mentioned. How when are you looking to bring in Wood? Or is it one or the other?
This week it's currently one or the other. I'm probably going to lean towards Cunha because of price, plus fixtures just look much better over the short term. But I'm probably at some point in time going to have Cunha and Wood in my team because there's a very high likelihood that I transfer out Mateta for Wood closer to game week 29. Hopefully Wood doesn't hurt me any further because as soon as I took him out, he got a hat trick and then a goal the week after again, which has also been quite an uncomfortable feeling. We had great memories in the start of the season, but since then it's been quite painful. But I'm considering both. Probably going to lean towards Cunha for now, but Chris Wood is definitely coming into my team in game week 29,
I
without a doubt.
I really like Cunha for the game week 29 fixture, Southampton.
Yeah.
It's captainable
Yes.
as a
Yes.
differential. So that's I'd also be leaning to Cunha. To be honest, I'd like Wood in my team as well, but I like Mateta for the next three as well.
I just love Mateta as a footballer. Like for me, it's just biased. The only reason Chris Wood is not in my team is because I'm biased to Mateta. That's the only reason. And I should
Let's
have both, to be honest.
take a look at next week's. I mean this weekend's fixtures, and then we'll look quickly at game week 29. So um, I guess it's a tough fixture for Liverpool, Liverpool City, and
I think it's one of those games that gets Liverpool back into form.
I think so.
It just feels like that because it usually happens. It usually kickstarts Liverpool again when they're going through a bit of a difficult patch and they play against City. Somehow that hunger comes back into them and they start playing ridiculously well again. But that Sunday's got some great games. I think Newcastle Forest will
Forest.
be a good game.
Hmm.
I feel like it might not be as exciting to watch, but I mean for like goals and stuff. But I think just the quality on display, two teams it'll be a solid battle in the midfield, two decent teams playing against each other, two teams that are in relatively decent form as well. I think it can be a good game to watch, but it could also be one of those that ends up in a bloody draw.
Yeah,
But it's an entertaining draw to watch, hopefully.
hopefully. So just remember again, deadline is Friday night. So
I
Friday
just
fixture.
realized that when I looked at the fixtures,
Yeah.
in my mind I was thinking it's Saturday the whole time, and then I realized, oh wow,
No,
it's
it's
actually
Friday
Friday
night
night.
again. So Leicester Brentford. Don't think I'll be catching the game, but I have in Burma, so I'm hoping Brentford do well. Leicester
Yes.
need results, otherwise it's gonna be
And a lot of people are like have doubled up Wissa and Burma, which I
yeah.
don't have the comfort in. I mean, to be honest, Burma, Wissa had 2 goals disallowed on VAR this past weekend. So I mean, you can see the chances are there. Brentford just need to watch
Their
their
lines.
offside line a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, Everton versus United is also an interesting one. Everton on form, Newcastle. I mean, United not on form, but United
Moisey got
surely,
this.
surely can't lose
Moisey got
another one.
this. Nah, Moisey got this. At Goodison, nah, it's done. It's a done deal. Everton win. United are just so bad. I cannot bet on United at the moment. Like even they don't even surprise you with the result anymore. That's how bad they are at the moment.
Yeah, even with the injury problems as well,
Mm,
they're
yeah.
not having it on their side. Arsenal West Ham, I think everybody's starting that as the safest fixture. So people, like you said
Yes.
earlier, Arteta want to bring in,
For AM. Yeah.
and I actually think Wolves Bournemouth. I think Wolves can cause an upset.
I
Um,
think so too. Because
um,
Bournemouth have been on a good run for now.
mm,
They need to just be humbled a little bit by like a low opposition just to get a surprise result against them. And maybe a couple of goals there against Kepa
that's what
will we can feast.
I'm hoping for that. So I mean, I already made my transfer. So and
Mm,
Cunha's been great for me before I took him out.
yeah, sames.
So I'm hoping for more. Other one I'll be looking at is Villa Chelsea. Chelsea been
Yes,
so poor. Villa haven't been the greatest, so I think it can be anyone's game.
it can be.
But Chelsea
I think
need
I think
to,
Fulham Palace could be a decent one too in the 5 o'clock ones as well. I mean,
yeah,
um if if you want to watch two teams like kind of on the up, right? I mean, Fulham are doing quite well. Palace are doing quite well. And I'll be watching it because I do want Jean-Philippe Mateta to get another hat trick, hopefully, just to make me happy again. Because when Mateta scores, when Mateta's happy, I'm happy. That's just how football works for me at the moment.
let's go to Game Week 29 planning now. So a little bit far away, but not too far.
But
Um,
important, right? I think it's super important
for
to
Ren,
plan from now because it'll ultimately dictate a lot of your chip strategy going forward because everyone's contemplating a free hit in 29, but there's a potential chance to free hit in 34 as well. Because I mean, once the FA Cup fixtures do happen, it'll give you an opportunity to decide which one to free hit. Plus, for me, why I'm waiting just a little bit longer also is I want another round of FA Cup games to go through to then give an indication of which teams are going to be progressing, for example.
yeah,
So that you have a better indication of when to potentially use your wildcard. Because I'm currently stuck on wildcard 30 or wildcard 35.
yeah,
But well, it'll all depend on how the FA Cup games run. But Game Week 29, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 fixtures.
it's a
There's
lot.
4 teams blanking. Palace, Liverpool,
Newcastle
Newcastle,
and
and
Palace.
Palace.
So we said
Palace, Liverpool, Newcastle, and who's the fourth team? I forget now.
Villa.
Do I have any place? Oh, Villa's the other one, yes. So, I mean, those 4 teams, and a lot of people, especially now after the double game week, are potentially loaded up on Villa. Liverpool, everyone's probably got Isak. I'd be very surprised if nobody does. And then Palace, Munoz has been quite a popular pick, even Mateta for a lot of teams. So, I mean, there's a high ownership um, of players that need to effectively be left out. And I think if you're overloaded, I think it's probably important to consider a free hit in 29 because the thing is, especially if you load it up with Newcastle and Palace players, they've got the double game week in 32, which was the surprise one, which
Yeah,
you might as well keep those players instead of transferring a lot of them on, unless you're willing to take that risk, because you might want to bring them back again there. So I think that's definitely something to consider. I think also for game week 29, I think um, and why it's probably worth keeping transfers a bit later on is that Forest fixtures I think get quite decent after game week 29 onwards.
yeah,
So I think they're actually worth bringing players in for some of those game weeks. So I think they did a team to target. City also against Brighton, who I mean, as much as they look good against Chelsea, haven't been too great either, right? So they might be a decent option. Wolves against Southampton might be quite decent as well. Everton, people who are still holding Everton players, I think if you've got like the likes of Pickford and potentially Beto, for example, has a great fixture against West Ham.
Yeah,
That might be quite a decent one for them as well. And I don't want to say Man United, Leicester might be an intense one, but I don't want any players from those teams. Chelsea and Arsenal, I guess, wouldn't be teams to load up for either because they've both got very tough fixtures against each other there. So I think it's all going to be dependent on how many transfers you either have currently. So I mean, if you have very few transfers at the moment and a lot of players in your team, I'd really consider free hitting 29. But if you've got like a decent amount of players and a decent amount of transfers, I would consider removing some of the players because there's decent fixtures to target in game week 29, and then just hope you've got enough transfers to bring your Everton and your Newcastle and Palace assets back in game week 32, and then potentially start planning for 33, which might likely be another double game week.
yeah. I was actually looking at prepping for this week, and I agree with you. Like Cunha, Wood, great options for this game week in particular. So nice to bring them in early. I think Cunha for now
Mm,
Wood, you can bring him in on 29, but he's in such good form that it really doesn't matter. But I was actually looking at like particularly Arsenal Chelsea. I don't particularly want any Chelsea players then, even though Palmer has
same.
the potential.
Yeah.
So that's what had me thinking after these 3 game weeks to maybe, if I want, I don't think I will because I need every transfer to fill a team for game week 29. But if I had the
Mm,
luxury, I might have actually looked at taking out Palmer and bringing him in Haaland if I had 2 or 3 transfers
yes.
just before this game week.
Mm,
Because you could take out Palmer and you could get someone in the midfield. I won't even know who to go, but maybe Mbremo if you don't have Mbremo. You can try
yeah.
and risk a Kulusevski, but I don't see that being too
Not
great.
convinced, to be
Yeah,
honest. Yeah. But I mean, if you go Haaland, they've got Haaland against Brighton, then Haaland against Leicester the week after, and then Haaland against Man United the week after that. They've got a decent run towards the end of the
that's the
season,
thing. Yeah,
City. So I don't think it's a bad idea to consider that. And I think it's a really solid move because I know a lot of people are considering the Isak to Haaland one. So they're trying to hold Isak until game week 28 and then for game week 29 move Isak up to Haaland and then get rid of Palmer and then probably bring in other players for that game week
yeah.
29.
The only thing
But I mean, your
is,
only problem is
yeah,
you want Isak back
back.
for game week 32.
So for me, I don't have a wild card. So for me, once if I
Mm.
bring in Haaland and take out Palmer, I'm not looking to change that
Get
again,
Palmer back. Yeah, it's
and
not gonna happen
I'm
again.
not looking to get rid of Isak because I need Isak for that game week.
Mm.
So that it becomes a bit tough for me. But I guess if you're planning your wild card, very viable still.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put it past you.
hundreds.
Um, but yeah, so let's hope this week a little bit of
Change
Pellegrini
of luck.
arrow.
Yeah, I think we need some luck this week. But I think it might be another week of pain because there's still a lot of people that have assistant manager activated. So I'm just going to hope for a little less pain this week, and then probably the week after might be a little bit more easier for us to start seeking some green arrows.
Yeah, hopefully like it'll pay off, particularly game 29 time, like where we really see big
Yeah,
jumps, which is what I'm
hundreds.
hoping for. But I mean,
I'm planning assistant manager around game week 31, and then from there potentially hoping to gain some rank on some because not many people will actually use their chips in game week 31, 32, 33. There won't be a lot of chips used there. So I mean, if we can get 5 games out of there, especially with the doubles, hopefully in 32 and 33, then this manager chip can be quite powerful for us. And then we'll also have gotten it on 2 double game weeks like everyone else did.
yeah, we just got to pick the right manager.
Yeah,
So
that's
looking,
true. That is a fact. That is a
but
fact.
it's actually quite surprising how close the rankings are. I've noticed like we only like 20 points adrift, I think now, and your rank is almost double mine's. Meaning, I mean,
Yes.
20 points is not the worst to catch up on. You've caught me up
Mm,
already 15 points this week, yeah, and
yeah.
considering that I could just by 15 points I could lose double my rank. That's quite quite
It's a
harsh, man.
Jean-Philippe Mateta hat trick away from you.
Yeah. Yeah, looking at the teams, I actually don't have much. I think it's Gordon that I'm hoping on to get my rank up versus you.
Yeah, because he's
So,
quite a differential at the moment for you. A lot of
yeah.
people have gotten rid of him.
But we'll catch you guys after this weekend.